Who's cleaning up the rogue behaviour at the Australian Tax Office? It's a question we asked the Minister in charge 2 weeks ago, and we still don't have an answer. Unfortunately, we found more cases that need to be looked at, perhaps even more cruel than what we've already exposed. Dan Nolan has led our investigation. Dan, we feared there'd be more taxpayers harshly treated by the Tax Office. What have you found?
Well, Ali, this one might be the most concerning of them all. A 58-year-old businesswoman who we'll refer to as Taxpayer A. Once again, she has no previous criminal history. She is facing dozens of charges relating to misleading a taxation officer. And if she's found guilty, she could be facing a lengthy jail sentence. The problem is the lead ATO investigator in this case was none other than Anthony Rains, the same man a Supreme Court judge found had fabricated evidence and provided dishonest statements in the pursuit of another Australian businesswoman. But in this new case, Taxpayer A was subjected to an even harsher measure, usually reserved for pedophiles and rapists, not taxpayers.
The way that she has been treated, there's only one word to describe it, is cruelty.
Helen Pattaya was once the target of the tax office herself. Now she works as an advocate helping other Aussies facing the full force of one of the most powerful government agencies in the country.
Most people don't believe me when I tell them that the Australian Tax Office, under the direct authority of our government, would put ankle bracelets on taxpayers to effectively imprison them, even though they've not even found them guilty of any charge.
These are the disturbing images of what Taxpayer A was forced to wear for 9 months. Aged 54 at the time, with no previous criminal history, her bail conditions required her to wear an ankle monitor, usually reserved for convicted sex offenders.
To put an ankle bracelet on a middle-aged woman who all she's trying to do is defend herself is the biggest breach of human rights.
After 9 long months, Taxpayer A provided a letter from her GP about a medical problem being aggravated by the tracker on her ankle, and with diabetes there is a possible loss of limb. The bail condition was then removed.
Her GP said she could potentially lose her limb. Is this appropriate conduct from the ATO?
Heavy-handed would be a really polite way to describe the ATO officers involved, but I would actually suggest that they're basically delusional. I mean, who does that to a person? She's not a risk. She wasn't a flight risk.
The ATO investigator in charge of her case was Anthony Rains, who a Supreme Court judge found had committed 11 acts of misconduct in another heavy-handed pursuit of taxpayer Julie Clark, which we reported 2 weeks ago. That judgment is now under appeal.
They've taken no accountability. They do not aim to or try to deal with those findings. They've just filed an appeal.
Rains was also in charge of the case against Jay Jang, a businessman who was also facing jail, along with 2 of his employees, in another flawed investigation.
I've asked the ATO and the Commonwealth Director of Public Prosecutions a series of questions about what they are doing to review all of Anthony Rains' other investigations, in particular those like Taxpayer A, currently before the courts with her freedom still very much at stake. Both agencies have declined to answer any of my questions, citing Julie Clark's case, which is under appeal.
This stinks to high heaven.
Shadow Attorney General Andrew Wallace is the latest federal politician calling for an urgent investigation into the misconduct emerging at the tax office.
Now, I accept that, of course, this is under appeal, but it certainly raises very grave concerns about the manner in which not just the way the investigator conducted himself in this case, but more broadly, the ATO.
With government agencies unwilling to reveal what steps they've undertaken to ensure misconduct is being addressed, we asked their political masters what they're doing about it. Assistant Treasurer Daniel Molino is responsible for the ATO. 6 weeks ago, he told ACurrentAffair he was aware of the judgment and had discussed the matter with the ATO Commissioner. Now he claims to know nothing about it.
I don't want to talk about specific cases, but what I can say is that I'll get briefed in due course on that case, and that there are very rigorous processes inside the ATO.
Well, I think that's entirely inappropriate. I think that the Minister in charge of the ATO, Daniel Molino, needs to intervene.
Federal Attorney General Michelle Rowland oversees the CDPP. We asked her office whether she's concerned about the lack of transparency and accountability.
The CDPP is an independent agency. It is solely responsible for decisions as to which matters it chooses to prosecute. These decisions are guided by the prosecution policy of the Commonwealth.
Whilst the Attorney-General needs to be careful insofar as the matter is still on appeal, I think questions need to be asked as to whether the interests of justice really demand that the appeal be continued.
The Attorney-General is also responsible for model litigant obligations expected of all government agencies pursuing any court cases. This is on the ATO's own website.
As a government agency, we apply the highest standards of ethical behaviour when we are involved in litigation. We need to do the right thing, be fair, and have the highest professional standards.
How do you think the ATO is handling its model litigant obligations in these cases?
When you mention the word model litigant and the ATO in one sentence, it's met with laughter. I think it's a theory. I don't believe it's a practice. They'll do what they want to do, play by their rules. They will spend as much money as they need to, doubling down inside courtrooms.
Mother of 5, Helen Pataya, eventually won a hard-fought apology and confidential settlement from the ATO 7 years ago. At that time, helping her achieve a fair outcome was then opposition MP Jim Chalmers. She believes it's now time for Treasurer Chalmers to step in.
I know Jim knows what goes on. I think he's a decent guy, and I think as the Treasurer he needs to stand up and go into bat for the taxpayers of Australia.
The pressure is mounting, and surely we have heard enough that it is time the Treasurer looks into this himself.